Part 1. A shark. Below you. You can't see it, but it already sees you. 6 meters, 2 tons, 300 teeth, and you're in the water. Naked. No claws, no venom, no armor. And now imagine, this happens every single day. Not just in the water. On shore, a cave lion weighing 300 kilograms is waiting. In the forest, a short-faced bear, 3 meters tall. In the savannah, a pack of giant hyenas that has already surrounded you. The question isn't how early humans survived predators. The question is, how did they make it to morning? Part 2. Here is what no textbook says out loud. For hundreds of thousands of years, Homo sapiens were not the hunters. They were the hunted. Systematically, routinely, as a biological fact. The species that would build the Colosseum, split the atom, and walk on the moon started as prey. Sharks from the water, crocodiles from the banks, cave lions from the darkness, and eagles, and this is not metaphor, this is documented bone evidence, eagles that took children. A child's skull found at Tong in South Africa, 2.5 million years old, carries the precise puncture marks of a large bird of prey around the eye sockets. So ask yourself this, what if our ancestors hadn't figured it out? What if one of these predators had pushed that last fragile group just far enough? You wouldn't exist. Nobody would. Every painting, every discovery, every love story in human history, gone. Because of a shark, because of a lion, because of an eagle in the African sky. Part 3. We were not the obvious survivors, not even close. Neanderthals were stronger, denser bones, more muscle, a chest built like a barrel for cold weather endurance. Their grip strength was likely double ours. They had been surviving European winters that would kill a modern human in hours, and doing it for 300,000 years before we arrived. Gone. Homo erectus walked this earth for nearly 2 million years. Gone. Denisovans, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo naledi. All of them faced the same sharks, the same lions, the same bears. All of them developed tools. All of them used fire. All of them fought, and all of them lost. Only one lineage made it through. Only one species sits here today reading about the rest. So what did we have that none of them did? What was the difference between extinction and everything that came after? Part 4. The first answer begins in darkness, with something ancient and simple and completely world-altering. Fire. But not just fire. What Homo sapiens did with fire that no species before them had ever achieved with full intention. They weaponized it. Excavations in South Africa, dating to 170,000 years ago, revealed something that stopped researchers cold. Fire wasn't lit in the center of shelters for warmth. It burned at the entrances, at the perimeters, strategically placed. Because every major predator of that era, the cave lion, the giant hyena, the saber-toothed cat, shared one thing. One hardwired, untrainable, permanent fear written into their nervous systems by millions of years of evolution. Open flame. You could not breed it out. You could not condition it away. It was there from birth, and it never left. Humans found that switch, and they learned exactly when and how to press it. But here is the problem. Fire doesn't work underwater. It doesn't work when the predator is already beneath you before you take your first stroke. So for that, they had to think completely differently. Part 5. Early humans did not swim for pleasure. Every entry into water was a calculated decision with known variables and studied risks. Archaeological sites along the South African coast, Pinnacle Point, Blombos Cave, Clossies River, show communities living at the water's edge for tens of thousands of years. Harvesting shellfish, catching fish, exploiting tidal resources no inland population could access. But look closer at the evidence, and something extraordinary appears. Specific elevated rocks used repeatedly as observation points. Shell middens arranged in patterns suggesting knowledge of tidal cycles. Predator approach corridors identified and avoided across generations. These people were not randomly wading into the surf and hoping. They were reading the water, mapping it, learning when the sharks came, where they came from, what drew them and what drove them away. They weren't afraid of sharks. They were studying sharks, building a body of knowledge so precise and so transferable that every generation that followed started with an advantage the shark itself could never evolve fast enough to answer. Part 6. Fire protects a camp. Knowledge protects a coastline. But what protects a single person, alone, in open terrain, with nothing between them and something that has been an apex predator since before humans existed? The answer is one of the most remarkable things about our species. You were never truly alone. Oxford anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades mapping the social architecture of early Homo sapiens and found something that reframed everything. Early humans maintained functioning networks of up to 150 individuals simultaneously. Not casual neighbors, people who knew each other's locations, tracked each other's patterns, and ran rotating sentry rotations through the night. When a crocodile struck at the riverbank, others were already moving. When a cave lion circled the camp, it wasn't approaching one frightened primate. It was approaching 30 coordinated bodies with fire and noise and spears pointed outward. The predator had no script for this, no evolutionary memory of it. In 3 billion years of animal life on this planet, prey ran or hid or died. Early humans stood together and held the line. And the predators, for the first time in the history of life on Earth, didn't know what to do next. Part 7. This is the moment everything changed. The moment early humans went from surviving predators to challenging them. That is the hinge point of our entire species history. In Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, researchers found large animal bones bearing the tooth marks of big cats and hyenas. Overlaid on top, cutting directly through them, the precise marks of human stone tools. Humans arriving at predator kills, taking the meat. First after the predators finished, then while they were still feeding, then before they could even begin. That progression took thousands of years. But it happened, and it extended to water. Ethnographic records from coastal populations document something that sounds impossible until you understand who these people were. Coordinated groups of humans entering shallow water and actively driving sharks away from feeding sites. Not fleeing, not hiding, driving. A 2-ton predator with 300 teeth and 450 million years of evolution behind it, being told by a group of hairless primates with sticks that this space was taken. And the sharks left, because something in the water that day was stranger and more coordinated and more relentless than anything they had encountered before. Something new had arrived on this planet, and it did not intend to be food. Part 8. And it was more powerful than anything else our species ever developed. Paleoanthropologist Ian Tattersall of the American Museum of Natural History has spent his career asking what actually separated Homo sapiens from every species that came before. Not just the ones that went extinct, but the ones that came close and still didn't make it. His answer is striking. Not our hands, not our tools, not even our brains in isolation. It was what we could say to each other. Complex language, specific, conditional, narrative, transmissible language, gave humans something no predator could match and no other prey species could attempt. Accumulated knowledge across generations. Not just quote 0, but quote 1. That sentence, spoken once around a fire, could save 10 lives the next morning, and then be passed to children, and refined, and passed again. Predators evolved their strategies over thousands of generations of natural selection. Human knowledge about those predators evolved within a single human lifetime. The asymmetry was total, and it only grew with every generation that survived to speak. Part 9. Genetic research, specifically the analysis of mitochondrial DNA variation across all living human populations, has revealed something that deserves to be far more famous than it is. At some point in our prehistory, the total population of Homo sapiens on Earth collapsed, catastrophically. The estimates vary, but the genetic signal is clear. Our entire species was reduced to somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 breeding individuals, perhaps less. Think about what that means. One coordinated predator pressure during a drought year. One epidemic moving through a population with no immunity and nowhere to run. One failed migration. One bad season. And the chain breaks. Every human who ever lived after that moment, every emperor, every artist, every scientist, every parent, descends from whoever was left standing inside that bottleneck. The planet doesn't get Rome. It doesn't get the Renaissance. It doesn't get you. It gets whatever species was patient enough to wait. And something was always waiting. Something with teeth. Something that had been waiting for a very, very long time. Part 10. Humans didn't survive predators by becoming stronger. They survived by becoming stranger. Knowledge about sharks and bears and cave lions accumulated across 10,000 years and delivered, precise, actionable, tested, to a child sitting by a fire who would never have to learn it the hard way. Every predator that hunted our ancestors is either gone from this earth or has learned, somewhere deep in whatever passes for instinct, to be careful around the strange, hairless thing that walks upright and travels in groups and never seems to stop thinking. Every single one. And we are still here. You are here right now because 200,000 years ago, in the dark, with something enormous and hungry moving closer through the night, someone decided not to run.